Hello everyone, today is Thursday, October 25th. It's 3:33 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's about 30 minutes before the regular session close. You can see my computer clock on my right. On my left is the time in sales, the E-mini S&P currently trading at 2712.50. It was a fantastic day for the auto trader today. The first chart I have to show you is the Nasdaq on a 5-minute chart, and I had spoke about expanding the targets on this. It was getting stopped out too soon. And on this chart, this played out really well. I just want you to notice the signals on the indicators here. This is, pre-market, but going short here. This is actually yesterday. And then overnight, a little bit sideways, but still some good signals here, and then of course today, the auto trader just totally jammed on this trade here as I expanded the targets to a profit goal of 5,100. And then I increased our profit target. So the first target is 350 ticks, and then trailing by 10%. So not exactly sure why this exited here, but probably maybe because of this move. But here we went short, we went long at 69.29, and we covered at 70.18. So that's 100 ticks. That's 100 points. That's almost 400 ticks on this trade. This is just a beautiful chart here with a single trade right off the open and just two exits here around the 2:30 hour. There was a little more to go here, but who cares? This did 3,600 for the day. Okay, next is the DAX on a Super Renko 16 tick, and this drew down slightly off the London Open here, only about 150 per contract, and then came up and did 34.87 for the day, and our goal on this is 3,500. So this hit its goal, and that was that. But pretty nice performance here. Okay, all good things must come to an end. The DAX on a 3-minute chart was stopped out today, and here's the chart. There was mostly, it just was losing right from the start. One thing I've observed is it seems like more often than not that once the auto trader starts, if you get into a losing pattern like this, it tends to go that way. I mean, I've shown plenty of charts where it recovers, but there's also this scenario here, which I think is almost as prevalent. Having said that, I think it's conceivable to have a 2 or 3 to 1 daily profit goal ratio where you could have, say, a $1,500 profit target with only a 500 loss limit, and if you get stopped out, you're basically probably going to get stopped out anyway. But if it's going to win, you're going to win, and your win ratio will allow you to take several losing days. So just something to think about. Our goal on this, the stop out was actually 4,300, so it didn't hit its loss limit, but it certainly came close. But I just wanted to show this. There are losing charts. Nothing wins 100%. There's no such thing. Okay, the E-mini S&P on a 5-minute chart had a excellent performance today, and I played around with the goals on this as well, kind of lifting them up a little bit, the profit targets and the trailing stops. And this did 3,000 for the day on 2 long trades. Notice we didn't go short here, and that's because you can turn precision trend exit off, which means if I'm long and I get red bars, it's going to exit, but I have that actually turned off, so you can skip a trade like this. Okay, next up is the E-mini S&P on a regular 5-minute chart. And this chart is interesting in the fact that there's a couple things I'm doing different on this chart, and I've applied it to a couple of other charts. And so this did 3,000 for the day on a couple of trades. This was one of the charts I talked about, expanding the profit targets and trailing stops, and that obviously paid off today. Also on this chart is, I want to talk about our stop-loss calculation mode. Now down here is the dialog box. So usually I have this set at 0 for most charts, which is just trailing the stop by, your stop loss is set in ticks. But setting it to 2 here, the stop loss is the prior bar high or low. So what that means is that this is the entry bar. So my stop is the low of this bar. And then I also have it set to higher low plus ticks. If this was 0, it would just be the low of the bar. But here I've actually set it to 4 points below the low of this bar. So that's probably never going to come into play, because in reality, if the market traded below the low of this bar and then below this volatility stop here, which is only about 3 points, it would stop me out. In any case, setting this below the low of your entry bar can be useful. I have it set on a couple of other charts. I'll see if we can point them out. But this chart did really well, the E-mini S&P on a 5-minute chart. We had several charts. We had 3 charts doing over 3,000 and another 4 or 5 charts doing between 2,300 and 2,975. So really quite a day for the auto trader today. Okay, next up is the Nasdaq on a 987 Heikin-Ashi chart, and this has a goal of 3,000 and it did 2,975, so obviously hit its goal. And it looks like if I tighten up the equity curve, we had a minor drawdown here of about 250 per contract, and then it was pretty much up from there. So a lot of winning trades after that drawdown, ultimately bringing us up to our goal. Now notice on my stop loss I have the calculation mode at ticks, so it's just a straight 21 ticks on this chart. Okay, next up is the DAX on a Superenco 14 tick. This is the one with a high goal of 5,500. Haven't adjusted this back yet, but this did 28.50 for the day. Moderately active trading. We had quite a significant drawdown here, about 1,500 per contract, but it didn't get stopped out as our loss limit was 4,000. And it came up, recovered almost all of it, and then drew down again quite a lot. And then from that point it was straight up, and that coincided with the open of the US session. Okay, next up is the Nasdaq on a 150 Heikin-Ashi tick chart, and this was pretty much straight up, didn't have a losing trade the whole session. Okay, next up is the Nasdaq on a 150 Heikin-Ashi tick chart, and this did 27.70 for the day. The goal on this one is 2,500. On this one I also am using the high of the entry bar. I have the stop loss calculation mode set at 2, which is the high of the entry bar or the low of the entry bar. Okay, really solid performance on the E-mini S&P Superenco 6 tick. This is trading only 2 contracts, as you can see here, and I set this still kind of with elevated goals of 2,000, and this did really well. Just looking at the trades here, this didn't have, it had one small loser, very small loser here, but mostly all winners, closing at 1687.50. Okay, pretty big volatility on the DAX. DAX on the Superenco 14 tick just had 2 trades here that don't look like much in the, compared to this move from this low to this high. This was just a small piece of it here and did 15.50, so probably we didn't get filled on our limit order on these other trades. This is a limit order with only 4 ticks pullback, so these swings were just taking off with little or no pullback. And the goal on this one is 2,000, so shy of its goal. Okay, the ES on a 987 Heikin-Ashi chart was moderately active today. Came up to an equity high of about 1,100 and then drew down to minus 850 and then recovered to 1437, as you can see the equity curve here. So in our, once we began to recover, we had a string of, pretty nice winning trades, but drawing down throughout the morning. Our first equity high was 1,100. Normally the goal on these charts is about 1,000 on these charts here, but I have, because of volatility, I elevated the profit goal. I left the loss limit the same, but the profit goal on this is 2200. Anyway, this did 1437.50 for the day. A real solid performance overall for all the charts in the Autotrader today. We had 7 or 8 charts exceeding $2,500 today. Okay, next up is the E-mini S&P on a 1597 Heikin-Ashi chart. The goal on this is 1300, and this came shy of its goal. Really didn't draw down below zero, so just catching a small portion of these moves here still had a pretty decent performance. Okay, the crude oil on a Super 6 tick did 970 for the day. I think our goal on this is 1,000, and it is 1,000. Very slight drawdown here, only about $150. And then finally the Nasdaq on a 1597 Heikin-Ashi tick chart. This made an equity high within the first hour and a half of trading of about 1,300, and then gave it all back and drew down about 100, and then made it back again. Had an equity high of 1,600 and then closed at 885. So pretty wild ride on this chart. That's all for today's video. Thanks for watching.